This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
Before you go, Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and I'm also here with my buddy, Jared Davis. We're at UMass Hate Week. It's finally here. Season's here. We have no more Saturdays where there's no more football. We even had some football this last week where we got to see UMass. So, Jared, it's here. I feel like the fall weather is slowly rolling in. You know, we've got a hurricane coming when we're recording this, so the rain and stuff is starting to cool things down, make it feel a little bit more like fall. And when I feel that cooler weather come in, you just know football is just right around the corner. But Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm with you. I think tomorrow the high is 78 or something like that, and that's a far cry from what it was a week ago. It's been a hot summer, man. I am ready for football, ready for fall temperatures. I did find, you mentioned we had a game last week, and I laughed at this. I realize now why the Pac-12 is the Pac-4. So you only play the first week zero, they call it, to get attention, I'm guessing, right?
I would guess.
USC, who is a top 10 team, I couldn't get them on TV. Like, that game was not available to me. And I'm like, that's why they're the Pac-4 now. Like, you can't have a TV package to where you can't be watched when no one else is even playing.
Right. When there were like, I think maybe 4 games over the last week or something, like maybe.
And I have YouTube TV. A top 10 team playing in week 0 that you can't get is just crazy to me.
Yeah, and when that just shows you that the conferences, like especially conferences that have the bigger names that are produce the national champions over and over, like the SEC, are going to have the money, and TV is going to rightly point their money towards us and the SEC, and that even sometimes ACC, maybe even Big Ten. I mean, that's kind of why you're seeing some of those shifts going on. So it is very interesting. I mean, this whole landscape is changing, and it's ever changing. I mean, I've seen some stuff about the ACC acquiring some teams, and I'm like, what? Like, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I feel for some of these student athletes who, like, for example, I'm thinking about a team like Clemson in the ACC. You know, they're on the East Coast, and then you're going to be playing a team on the West Coast. Like, that's not only time shift, but it's also travel time all the way to get out there. Like, that's just brutal. Only professional athletes are going through that, and even they don't have to do that usually on a regular basis. So, man, it's pretty crazy. Speaking of some of the change going on, I wanted to bring up some of the things to expect for game day, because, I mean, a lot's gone on. Obviously, we've got, for Auburn, new head coach Hugh Freeze, Philip Montgomery is offensive coordinator, Ron Roberts, our defensive coordinator. So brand new. We still got Cadillac Williams and Zach Etheridge, but I mean, there's a lot of just turnover of coaching. And then I think the last number I saw was like 37 players that have either come in as new freshmen or are transfers in that are going to be new. So you got 37 new faces on campus and trying to figure out what that looks like for this team. So there's just a lot of unknowns on offense and defense. At least from a fan perspective, I would suspect the coaching staff, now that they've gone through spring and fall camp, prepping for games, I feel like they probably got a better idea of it. But yeah, there's a lot going on there. And I mean, I don't know, Jared, do you have any idea? Like, do you think it'll take some time for us, like even us as fans, to see like what is this team? What do they look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. This is literally not only new coaching staff, a large majority of new players. But that could be a good thing too. Like, they're not set in their ways of a previous staff. They're kind of, they're coming to Auburn new, and so they're willing to listen to the new coaching staff. I think all in all, it's probably going to take a few games to gel. It's probably a good thing that we have, not that going to Cal is not going to be difficult, but we have a few games to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Hugh hides his thoughts very well, and I think he started making more positive comments about groups like the receiving group and all that towards the end of camp. So I don't know if things are starting to click, but I expect it to take several games for everybody to fully buy in and to understand what the coaches are wanting is how I view it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean that seems to be kind of this learning curve, not only the players but even the staff of like who they've got. So, I mean, it to me is a pretty understandable thing that you may take a little bit of time to kind of figure that out. And I mean, this is kind of like our preseason in a way. We kind of get at least one game, and we would say probably arguably Cal as well, but you never know, as kind of like a warm-up game, a good test of a way to figure out who you really are. And I mean, we'll get into like some details about UMass, but I think UMass is a good way to start this out. They're not just like a easy pushover team. They're going to bring it to us. A couple other kind of different things to expect that will be changing for game day, and these were just NCAA football rules that have come. So I wanted to bring those up. You might notice some of them. They're pretty minor, and not always will they come up. But the main one that you'll probably start noticing is there'll be a running clock. So pretty much the full game except 2 minutes right before half and 2 minutes right before the end of the game, the clock will be just constantly running unless it's obviously like a timeout or something like that. So what that's going to do is the goal of it is to shorten the games a little bit, which was kind of funny. Somebody and there's only a small sample size of 4 or 5 games, whatever it was over the weekend, but it only essentially cut out 3 minutes of game. And guess what? Somebody also calculated it added 14 minutes of commercials. So yay us. We have 14 more minutes of commercials because of these stupid rules.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. I'm like, look, if you want to shorten a game, don't allow CBS to do a commercial in the middle of a pass.
It feels like it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's just when you're at a game and you see the guy with the red hat out there, if it's a CBS game, I mean, he's camping out there. He's got his chair on the field. He's the guy that tells you, hey, we got to stop. We got commercials going on.
Yeah.
That's funny with the actual numbers. I mean, the NFL does it, and I've never really thought about it. I just, the one thing I don't like, and I think, you tell me, when you go out of bounds now, isn't it NFL if you go out of bounds, they stop the clock to spot the ball and then it starts again unless you're under 2 minutes? Is that going to be, I feel like that's an NFL rule now. Is that going to be college or?
I don't know about that specific one. Like the running clock was more around like first downs. So you get to first down, they stop the clock, and then once the ball's spotted, first down chains are kind of moved, then the clock starts again. And that's my only understanding of like when the clock's really going to stop. And again, that's only in the like last 2 minutes of each half. So I would bet even if the running back goes out of bounds, the ball's still kind of going, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see. Another kind of interesting change there is there's no longer, the coaches can no longer call consecutive timeouts. So you're probably like, why does that even matter? It's more around like trying to ice kickers is the scenario I think of a lot, where you call a timeout, the kicker has to think about it. You have an extra timeout still left, and you're like, all right, I'm going to call another timeout. Well, you can't do that anymore. The other scenario that I think of, and this happens a lot in college, is, the coach calls timeout, the guys run back out on the field and they're not lined up or something doesn't look right. Well, the coach can't call another timeout. And I agree. You just had a timeout. You should have your players on the same page with you and execute on what you were talking about over the timeout. Like, you're not just like sitting on the sidelines talking about nothing. Like, you're talking about what are we doing next? So I think that's a good one. Another one is not extending quarters. And that's about at the end of the first and the third quarter. Say there's a penalty at the end of those quarters. There's not going to be like an untimed down. Essentially, it's just going to be that penalty carries over into the next half or the next quarter. So say it happens in the first quarter, it'll go into the second quarter, and you'll just kind of pick up from there. So again, trying to eliminate the number of plays because I think they're looking at the number of injuries and trying to reduce that as much as possible. So just some interesting things, and that's going to be across college football. It's not just Auburn. Another kind of fun one that I think my brother pointed out to me, and I was thinking about this. Think of all the different like freeze or cold or just like different kind of like, I don't know, puns or different things that Auburn can do. And I feel like Auburn, I'm really hoping, especially on game day, they're going to like kind of raise all that kind of fun stuff up there. So I feel like that would be kind of interesting to see for those that get to go, see what kind of extra fun stuff they end up doing. I mean, not to mention it's going to be, I think it's sold out. If it's not sold out, it's going to be really close. So a lot of fun, high energy, especially around first year head coach Hugh Freeze. All right, so Jared, I want to do a little segment here on hot takes. So I feel like right before every season, everybody has their fun hot take about what they think about the season. It could be as wild as you want it to be. I was thinking about a few years back, Clint Richardson made a hot take that Daniel Carlson should win the Heisman, and I love that one. Which, hey, he was an amazing kicker, and look at him now in the NFL. Even his younger brother Anders is just killing it. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts and what's your hot take? I've given you some time even before this to think about this. What's your hot take for this season with Auburn football?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm like, there's different ways I could go with this, but I'm going with. Call me crazy. I actually believe what I'm about to say, and forget everything I talked about last week in our game by game. I think Auburn wins 9 games this year.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't. Yeah, I think we'll win 9 games. And I know last week I went game by game, and the math doesn't add up, but I've just been thinking it for a while, and I really think. Listen, you could convince me we're only going to win 6, right? I'm not going to argue with you if you're getting if you want to get down into the facts and data. I just have a gut that we do, and I really think that Hugh Freeze. I think people forget how good of a coach he is. He's got a past, right? So they forget how good of a coach he actually is.
Yeah.
I think that we forget how good our running back room is. And if the offensive line is an upgrade from last year, we ran the ball really well last year. They're an upgrade from last year, which I think they almost have to be. I don't know, man. I mean, I think we win some games at home that people are going to be surprised about. So, yeah, 9 wins. That's mine. What do you have for us, AJ?
I think that is a little hot. I mean, like for most Auburn fans, 9 wins is pretty optimistic. I mean, I feel like most people, or at least myself, I'm kind of leaning towards like 7-5, 8-4, kind of in that range. But I could also see maybe 9 wins. I mean, if the players are loving what Hugh Freeze is putting together and we come out with some good game plans, I mean, literally Hugh Freeze is kind of known for being that coach that comes in, fixes things real quick, and gets you back up to competing for conference championships, maybe even playoff hopes in the near future. I don't think this year, but so I mean, sure, maybe.
Wait, is that your hot take, AJ? Are you sliding that in? Are you saying we're going to make the playoffs?
I mean, no, that's not mine. But I will go this one. If we do have 9 wins, and I think this kind of goes along with it, I think it's going to be because of one person, Peyton Thorne. And so my hot take is Peyton Thorne will be, at the end of the season, a Heisman finalist.
Look at you.
And if he's not a Heisman finalist, I think there's going to be a push for him to be a Heisman finalist, because I think he could be that good. If he's that good already at Michigan State, who knows? You're at Auburn, where Peyton Thorne could just he could just take over. And he seems like such a mature dude that his like mentality around football, in my mind, kind of fits with like what I imagine a Heisman hopeful would be. Now, I'm not saying he's a dark horse or anything, but
I'm going to piggyback on you. If Peyton Thorne is a Heisman finalist, we win 10 games. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If he winds up being a Heisman finalist, we win 10 or more games.
You're probably right. I mean, I feel like Heisman candidates, there has to be at least 10 wins. So,
well, yeah, and I mean, to be a finalist, he probably gets up there with 9. But if he, I'm not knocking your, I'm saying though, if yours comes true, if he is a Heisman finalist, I think not. I don't think because we have to have won 10 games. I'm just saying if he's that good,
yeah,
I think we win 10 games. I mean, yeah, that's just.
that would be awesome.
So, anyways, neither one of these will probably come true, but they're fun to talk about, right?
Yeah, for sure. Let's transition a little bit into some of the upcoming stuff with UMass. Auburn, whether or not they wanted to, it looks like they might have leaked their depth chart. And even Hugh Freeze got wind of it, and he was like, that's not my depth chart. And he just went off on not having a depth chart, which maybe he doesn't have a depth chart. I mean, if I'm him, he probably has some sort of pecking order of players. But it's kind of interesting to see because it was a lot of the guys we kind of expected. Jarquez starting running back. I mean, like some of the wide receivers were a little interesting. You had like Jair Shorter, Jay Fair, Javarius Johnson, Shane Hooks, kind of as starters. But I mean, even Hugh Freeze is said for wide receivers that are going to be rotating. So, I mean, we're probably going to see like 7, 8, 9 different wide receivers kind of out in the field, especially in the first few games, trying to feel things out. But one that it was a little shocker, but we've heard so many good things about it, about Rivaldo Fairweather at tight end. But it looks like, at least on that depth chart, Rivaldo Fairweather's the starter at tight end, also with Luke Deal. So, Luke Deal being a staple with the tight end room for the last like maybe 3 or 4 years. Done a lot of stuff. And that's even with some pretty stacked tight end rooms that we've had. All right, so let's talk about UMass specifically. So we've got the Minutemen coming to Jordan-Hare. It's the Minutemen versus the Tigers, which I saw Auburn post it's funny, they always do like a preview picture or whatever, and it's this tiger staring down these Minutemen, and the Minutemen look like little like army men, like an inch tall, and you're like, that's awesome. Like so scary. I love it. But UMass, last week they actually got a win, which was pretty cool. Good to start out that way for them. And I think for Auburn, I don't know about you, but that gives Auburn even more reason to not just overlook UMass. Let's look at UMass as a good opponent. We should beat them. I mean, the spread right now, I think, is like 35 points, something like that. So we should beat them pretty handily. But this is a good opponent. And even Hugh Freeze, who, when he was at Liberty, faced UMass, and he has lots of respect for them. So lots of good stuff coming there. So, Jared, any kind of insights into UMass or anything that you're going to be looking for specifically in this game that you think might be interesting for others to also pay attention to?
I mean, where do you start on that? I mean, I don't know what to be focused on. I mean, I guess from what I want to see, I assume the running backs will do well. I would like to see a competent passing game. Play calling, I'll be looking at that. Need to see what the front seven does on defense. I think that's right now our biggest question mark over there. I feel like the secondary is pretty solid. Can we stop the run? Is going to be the question for the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
We basically got a ton of new faces on that side of the ball as far as the front seven goes. So I'm going to be looking at almost everything really, but the biggie is how does Thorne handle? It's not the SEC. He's not playing, but how does he handle a little different environment? Very pumped up, going to be a good atmosphere. How does he handle that? How do the wide receivers, the new guys, handle working with him? It's a lot to look for. I mean, at the end of the day, I do think UMass is probably better than last year. I think that they have some play, as any of these teams do. They have a handful of players that honestly could probably play on our team. It's just the depth will wear down over time. I don't think they will be a significant threat. at the end of the day.
Yeah. The thing I'm looking for, and I watched some of the UMass game, was their quarterback. And he's one that I could see playing on some other, I don't know, some Power 5 type team.
Well, he was from Clemson, wasn't he? Didn't he go to Georgia Tech and Clemson?
I'm not sure, but that sounds about right. I mean, it
think
wouldn't
they
shock
said
me.
that. Yeah.
But again, kind of showing like he has the talent to do that. He's just at UMass for whatever reason. But I think the thing that'll test us, and you pointed out, was kind of our defensive front. I think our defensive front is going to have a hard time, at least from what I was watching. Their quarterback, Taysom, can get out of the pocket and get out quick. And if he starts rolling out either to pass it or run the ball himself, which he can do both, then you got some issues, and we got to contain that. So in my mind, we got to really watch that. As far as UMass's defense, I mean, top 10 defense in 2022, despite even being 1-11 last year, which kind of just shows you their defense last year was really good. And Hugh Freeze and his presser was just talking about how they cause chaos, and there's lots of confusion that they do, especially up front. And that just, I mean, especially for these offensive linemen on Auburn, I mean, you're going to see some very interesting stuff, and you got to react. You got to do the right stuff. So I'm really interested to see kind of how that plays out, as well as what UMass's quarterback Taysom does. So let's jump into our players to watch before we get into our score predictions. Players to watch, we got, we'll kind of do it the same way we've done it in previous seasons. We'll pick on offense. You and I will pick a player or a position on offense, defense, and special teams, and why we think those are our players to watch for this particular game, and why they might make a difference in this game. So let's start out with offense. I'll start out. I think on offense, I think most everybody is going to be watching Peyton Thorne, but then also secondarily, how does the offensive line do? And those are going to be my two big keys, because I think if Peyton Thorne gets off on a correct direction, looks calm, collected, does what he needs to, runs the offense well, we're going to be in a much better shape when we go all the way out to California next week. So, Jared, who's your player on offense to watch for Auburn?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to piggyback on you. I mean, it's hard not to say Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne in the O-line is a great choice. I am going to go Peyton Thorne in the wide receivers. That's Hugh Freeze. AJ, we talked about off the record the crazy stat of, like, since 2010, Auburn has not had a single 1,000-yard receiver.
Yeah.
Its coaching staff that we have right now, what was the number they've had? It's like 15 1,000-yard receivers or something.
Yeah, it's insane what the coaching staff has put together. Here's the number here. They had 15 1,000-yard receivers since 2010.
So just for everybody listening, that's not just Hugh Freeze. That's between all our coaches we have. They've coached 15 1,000-yard receivers during a time span when Auburn's had 0. So this is what these people do. And they've brought in some big bodies. They brought in some capable guys. And so, I think that it all starts with the O-line, right? So I'm not trying that's a big one too. But I definitely want to see the connection between Peyton Thorne and the wide receivers. And see how that gets rolling.
Yeah, especially since they've only got essentially since, what was it, when he came? I think he committed in June, I want to say, maybe late May, and so you're only 2, maybe 3 months into practicing with these wide receivers. I mean, that's going to be something to watch out for. Hugh Freeze has said the wide receivers have improved some, but they're still not always going 100% what they need to every single play. And especially in this kind of offense, you need a good wide receiver to run their routes hard, block hard, do all the things that they need to, whether or not the ball is actually coming to them or not. All right, let's switch over to defense. Defense, we've got Again, it's just part of this whole, it feels like a whole nother makeover on defense besides our secondary. Lots of new linebackers, lots of new defensive linemen, new edge rushers, that type of stuff. And with that in mind, I think I'm going to lean towards kind of the defensive line and the jack position, which I think will probably be Elijah McAllister, who's the super senior from Vandy. He's working on his PhD. I saw even today, John Cohen, our athletic director, he was shadowing him. I'm like, what is this kid? Like, he is just going after it, learning everything. And if he's doing that, he's going to be a good football player for us. So, Jared, what is your thoughts on players to watch on defense?
Yeah, I mean, probably two, honestly. Mostly going to be looking for the linebackers and how they, because stopping the run all starts with that, right? So, got some new faces there, got some old faces as well, but I want to keep an eye on them. And then who's the stud defensive line true freshman that we just recruited? I can't think of his name, but I'm going to keep an eye on him too because everybody's had great things to say about him. I can't think of his name right now. It was a battle between us and Florida State, and we won the battle.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name too. I mean, it'll probably come to me and right as soon as we finish.
Yeah, as soon as we get done, we'll think of the guy. But Keldrick Faulk.
Yeah, Faulk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Keldrick Faulk. Yeah, I think he's got the potential to have a huge impact as a freshman, mostly out of need because I think he's an edge rusher, and we don't have a lot there. So yeah, I mean, that one individual person and then the group of linebackers is who I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, linebackers, we just don't know what we don't know at this point, as far as fans. But I mean, I'm sure they're already figuring out what they can do. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. Who gets the most reps from linebacker, kind of going forward. All right, for special teams, players to watch for Auburn, I'm going to be going with Brian Battie. I have heard so much good stuff about him, just being an incredible kick returner. Maybe another hot take. I think he takes one back this game against UMass, takes it, houses it, something. It's going to be amazing. If he doesn't house it, he's going to at least bring one back. I'm going to say to the 50-yard line. He's just, from what I've heard, that's the type of caliber guy he is. Unless UMass is just super scared of him and then they just like kick it out of bounds or something. Who knows?
Maybe a good decision.
Yeah. Jared, who are you going to be watching on special teams for this game?
Yeah, I actually think it's Battie as well, to be honest with you. I mean, I believe he had 660 yards returning last year. I think he led Conference USA in all-purpose yards. He's a really good athlete. Only issue with him mostly size, but on kickoffs that doesn't matter, right? So I'm kind of with you, man. I think let's see what that guy can do. I think they probably will try to go away from him, but we'll probably counter that with, how they do. Well, they'll kind of like line up behind each other and then separate after the kick. So I think he'll get his hands on a couple of them. Hopefully not too many because that means UMass is scoring. But I think it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table because I think that's one of the main reasons he was brought to Auburn.
Right.
Was to add a special teams threat.
I think a special teams threat is huge. I mean, obviously he'll be somewhat of a threat in the running back room, but we have a pretty stacked running back room at this point. And I think he'll get some carries, but I think where he's going to make his biggest impact is on special teams.
So I've never seen him play, but what I've heard people say about him, looking at his stats, he won't be this caliber, I don't think. I view him kind of like probably like a Percy Harvin who was at Florida, where he comes out of the backfield, he's a receiver, he's kick returning, he's doing everything, and he's just so skillful he can do that. I view him as that kind of all-purpose type guy.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to just see him overall, but definitely on special teams.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's transition into our score predictions. Right now, Auburn is favored by 35 points. But I mean, that's kind of interesting because right before when we were doing our preseason, it was 39 points. So I think after showing UMass has some capabilities that maybe people didn't think they had with their mobile quarterback. I mean, to me, I predicted preseason that we would win by 45. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit to 42 points. Still, obviously, a good win if we win by 42 points. But I think Auburn does it in a pretty convincing fashion. I mean, this is a good game for us at home. Lots of energy around this coaching staff, around this team. Just feels like a revitalized part of us as Auburn fans. And it honestly, if you think back on it, kind of started at the end of last season after Harsin was fired and Cadillac takes over. Cadillac brings home a win against Texas A&M at home. And I mean, this is kind of that continuation in my mind of that momentum and wave. And I think this will just keep pushing forward into this season. So, Jared, what's your predictions for this game?
Yeah, I think I predicted 50. I just did it in my head. I think it probably winds up 55-7, so that's 48. So I guess we'll go with that. Just say 48 points, 48 spread.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that. I mean, if we could hold, what'd you say, only 7 points for UMass, if we end up doing something like that, we're doing something right. And that gives me a lot of hope with this defense because UMass put up, I think, what was it, like 40 points in their first week. So they can put it up if they really want to. A few other things before we get out of here. A few changes around Auburn specifically. If you're going to campus either for this game or maybe for a future game, a couple of really exciting things. Probably I'm going to start out with my favorite one. The Tumors Oaks are now able to be rolled again, which it's been 10 years. I'm so excited to finally be able to do that. Head over there instead of just, I mean, yeah, it's still fun, obviously, to roll the trees around Tumors. Yeah, but there's just something special about those two trees, like kind of the combined effort of like, we're going to absolutely just take that that tree with all the toilet paper rolls that we could possibly do. I feel like that's just kind of special. So looking forward to that.
I agree.
And then we've got a few things that Auburn announced, which, Jared, I don't know if you saw these, but the VIP game day experience, I'll go through a handful and I'll point out one that I'm probably going to do probably at one of the home games that I go to. So that one is the football facility tour. I missed out on that when they had opened it up. So I really want to go back and do that. That one's only $25. So not bad to go tour Auburn's football facility. They've got some way more expensive stuff like walking in Tiger Walk with the team, being at the entrance when the team comes out of the tunnel, doing the smoke tunnel kind of thing, being at the 50-yard line for an eagle flight, running with the team onto the field, like right after the team. Like, how freaking cool is that? Like, again, really expensive. I think it's like $500 or something ridiculous. Ooh. But like, that's a cool experience. Don't get me wrong.
That is pretty cool. You get to ride on the eagle ever? Or is that kind of frowned upon?
I don't know. I mean, that might be animal abuse. So I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe just put a GoPro on them or something. That's
I was gonna say just put the GoPro on the eagle and then put a VR headset on or something.
Yeah. That'll work. Much safer for everyone involved.
Yeah, for sure. And then another one is a video message that you can pay. I think it's like $100 and something. And then you can put that on the video board, which I was thinking, how many times like people are going to take that up and like propose to their girlfriends or something? I don't know.
Hey, Jerry, are you going to take one? Are you going to do one where you talk about how much you appreciate your podcast co-host?
I mean, $125. That's some pretty good marketing money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get some ROI on that.
Yeah.
I get some like for sure. And then also wanted to announce some of the other announcements just for the stadium itself. So, I just talked about the game day experience, but this is also kind of game day experience that is happening in the stadium. I'll just point out a handful. There's a handful that you could go read online. But I thought it was interesting that the DJ booth, it was, I think, on the opposite side of the students, is now going to be in the middle of the student section. And I was like, how freaking cool is that? Like the The DJ is just going to be vibing with the students.
Wait, the DJ's literally gonna be in the student section?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's gonna be rocking it, dude.
Yeah. They got some other kind of just technical things like a new play clocks. They've also got upgraded Wi-Fi in the stadium. And then I think my other favorite is they're going to enhance the LED show in the stadium for an on-field reactions. I don't know what that means, but I'm intrigued. I want to know what they're talking about for on-field reactions. Does that mean like when we score a touchdown, are you gonna see like a tiger running us across the field or something in LEDs? Like,
Oh, that's pretty
I
cool.
don't know. I don't know. I'm dreaming here.
You could maybe have Chris Davis like running the kickback, like it's on the field before the game.
Please. Please. Are you speaking this into existence? If this happens, Jared, I'm gonna credit
I'm
you.
actually a part of the LED team, AJ.
Oh,
so
no.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be that. How awesome would that be if you like instead of on the big screen, literally on the TV on the field, you're seeing Bo over the top.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Davis running a kickback.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm literally getting chills right now thinking
Yeah.
about how cool that would be. So very interesting stuff there. One other, because we always like to do this on our previous shows, an Auburn fan perspective of the SEC. Vandy played, which again, they're trying to get some like publicity in their week 0 week. Well, they got plenty of publicity. They had, if you haven't watched anything or seen any pictures, their stadium is in shambles right now. They're doing a lot of renovations. Like one of their end zones looks like a complete wreck, just construction zone. And for the game, they were hanging up their scoreboard by 2 cranes. So just imagine that. If you haven't seen the picture, I'm sure you can go find it. And it's glorious. It's just amazing that an SEC team would do something like that and they wouldn't have essentially a backup plan. Besides, let's just have this huge, like, 200-foot screen kind of dangling by strings up there in the middle of the sky, which is hilarious to me.
I agree.
Oh, man. All right, Jared, how can the people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook. Just enter my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter at AJAY, JAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.